Donald Trump has been shot at a rally in Pennsylvania, and it has taken the world by storm as everyone is in shock across the globe. This was what happened. So this is over on X. This whole thing is absolutely blowing up and going wild. Take a look at this. This is the moment that Donald Trump was shot at the rally.
You see something that said, take a look at what happened.
So, if we play it back again, obviously you can see it all starts off very, very, well, I say mellow. It's just as a rally should be going. And then, of course, you can hear the gunshots going off, and you can see Donald Trump grab his ear before hitting the deck, and the Secret Service, who are there to obviously keep Donald Trump safe, telling him to get down.
Something that said, take a look at what happened.
There it is. He grabs his ear. And then as soon as that happens, they all bundle on top of him. Yes, I've seen it. It's mad. He was not shot. Such BS. I mean, was he not? Because it does look like he was. The shooter has been identified as Sam Hyde of Rhode Island. Now, from the last thing that I saw, it was stated that Donald Trump, that the shooter, had been captured and had been killed. But let's take a little look at this from ABC News.
To a nearby medical center that he received treatment, but that he is doing okay, that he is fine. His family in a statement calling it a heinous act, what has played out, but the details are still far and few. We only know the very little that we've been able to get from witnesses and from the Secret Service. We've got our entire team on this. John Carl, our chief Washington correspondent, is in Milwaukee because that was supposed to be the scene of the week's major news in the Republican National Convention. And instead, John, everything is about to change after this incident.
This thing has sent shockwaves throughout the political world.
It truly has.
The convention, speaking with the Republican Party chairman Michael Whatley when this news broke, saw him whisked away by an aide on the phone, trying to figure out what was happening. And obviously, shockwaves not just here in Milwaukee, where the political world, at least the Republican part of the political world, is gathering for this convention that is set to kick off officially at 2 o'clock on Monday, but also over on the Democratic side. We are told, Whit, that the Biden campaign has paused all outbound communications, and they're working to pull down all of their political ads, effectively putting this intensely fought, heavily funded, very negative presidential campaign, at least for the moment, on hold.
Wow.
In the wake of this incident. And you heard, President Biden condemn what happened. I thought it was interesting to hear him refer a couple of times to President Trump, somebody he has clashed with as mightily as any two political figures in our history have clashed, calling him Donald and saying he tried to get a hold of Donald and he hopes to speak to him, and saying that we all have to condemn what happens. And that is what is happening, Whit. We are seeing statements from political leaders across the political spectrum,
wow,
not just condemning what is an apparent or being investigated as an apparent political assassination attempt, but calling for calm and saying that political violence of any kind, certainly not like this, has no place in American politics.
For sure. And, that goes without saying, I think, that, well, this is horrible. I mean, the second that I saw this, I obviously thought that the absolute worst. You absolutely do. This is bad for Americans no matter what side you're on. Yeah, this is absolutely the case. I don't think it really matters at this point what side of the fence you're on. I think this is just bad in general. Of course it is. But to be honest, I don't really care about Trump. Prob set it up himself. I mean, that's quite a bold thing to claim, of course, but...
And so, being an emergency department physician, I just went into muscle memory and went down there to assist him.
And how did you assist him, doctor? And what did he look like? What were the extent of his wounds? It sounds like this was a male. What can you describe for us?
It's a male. He appeared to be mid-30s. Believe he was Hispanic. He was wearing a Trump rally shirt. He was shot in the head. His body was twisted around and wedged between two benches that were in the stand. He was not breathing. He did not have a pulse or at all. He appeared fairly gravely ill. With the help of 3 other people, I was able to get him back up on a bench, and I administered CPR. I breathed for him, standard CPR, and I also did chest compressions. There was a lot of blood that was spilt on the stands where he lay, as well as brain matter.
Doctor, did he appear to have any family with him, or did he seem like he was alone?
Absolutely horrendous.
He seemed like there was 2 family members. I continued to try to resuscitate him. 2 Pennsylvania State police officers approached and tapped me and said, "We got him." They're big guys. They lifted him off the bench like a rag doll. They thought I was family. I said, "No, I'm an emergency department physician, just trying to help." And they gathered up 2 family members and they left.
Doctor, this is Margaret Brennan in Washington. I am sorry for all that you have gone through.
This is unbelievable.
Your account. I wonder if you can share with us any detail of what you witnessed in terms of whether you saw what the injury was caused by. Was there impact from the bullet, or, as we're seeing rumors of, was there shrapnel, was there glass that sprayed that also caused injuries in the area?
Yeah, no, this was a bullet wound that was in the right temporal area above the right ear. The bone was elevated, and there was profuse blood and excuse me for saying this, brain matter coming there. So it really was a bullet wound, an entry wound. Looking at him, I did not examine him beyond performing CPR.
Oh my God.
I did not see an exit wound.
Did you, doctor, have any visibility into others in the area who might have had injuries, and could you tell from the distance you were at? So
for anyone that's just jumping in now, this is obviously for some people in the crowd that were on the receiving end of the bullets that were obviously, I'm assuming, intended for Donald Trump, but we don't know what actually has gone on. This obviously has literally just happened within the last hour. It is, well, it's just horrifying that this has happened at a Trump rally. And yes, this is crazy. Look at the chat. Dan said, "Can someone please check where Fiona Harvey is, please?" Oh my God. I just shut the president, sent from my iPhone. Oh my goodness.
There's no knives, nothing.
Could you tell the distance at which the shot was taken? Did you see the origin of the shot?
I couldn't tell. Again, I'm not a telemetry expert, but the way the wound entered, it was, I think, from being trees or from a distance, it seemed. And sometimes it looked like an assassination. They'll shoot the individual in front of them so they then can shoot their true target. I just thought of that as I was dealing with this individual.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, since you are a medical professional, the fact that the former president was able to stand up, we heard him say, "Get my shoe." He had a trickle of blood, but he had his arms around others. That would, as we are hearing from these statements from his campaign, suggest that he is fine. What was it that you think took him off his feet?
I don't know, because I did not witness that.
Catherine, I completely agree with you. I feel for the people who got hit with the stray bullets. Prayers for them, absolutely. It's believed that someone in attendance was hit by the bullet and was, subsequently killed by it. And it's also believed that the shooter has been taken down, but that's not been confirmed yet. So, we don't actually know whether that's truth or whether that's just something that's been spread across the media. But obviously this is just wow.
There as an attendee, tell us about the level of security required to enter these fairgrounds.
It was quite tight. I mean, it was a good hour to get in. There were an hour to get in the line to go through the metal detectors. I happen to have artificial knees that always lights up metal detectors, and they had to wand me after I got in. And it confirmed that I had that. It was quite tight. I felt pretty secure there. Okay. Also, where my vantage point in the stands, I could observe, I could observe what I consider to be SWAT snipers with silencers and different guns.
I think we just lost him.
The reason, Adriana, that description of the distance is so important is it gets to the security protocols. Clearly, the security perimeter was not broad and wide enough. If, as we were just hearing from our eyewitness, it took over an hour to get through those metal detectors and screening.
Some people say that there's been 2 shooters. That would, I guess, make sense based off of how frequent the shots were, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, how has this come to be? This, like, you would think that a presidential rally would be watertight. You wouldn't think that this kind of thing would slip through the net, but it seems to have. Was there no security getting it? How could someone sneak a gun in? This is exactly what the questions that are being asked. On Hot Mic, while Trump was on the ground, you can hear the Secret Service officer saying, "Shooter is down." Oh my goodness.
In a heightened level of preparedness, security-wise, because this is a large gathering. All large gatherings these days are highly scrutinized, but for the RNC, there's high security. Do you have any sense on the ground if protocols are changing, or if any of the Secret Service you're seeing there has any indication of what went wrong?
We are. During the day, in the hours before this, we observed local police and other police agencies that get sent here to assist Milwaukee local police in dealing with things like traffic control, crowd control. They were out and about sort of reviewing the lay of the land, getting a sense of it. In the hours since then, we haven't seen a few blocks from the convention site any real change in police posture. But we know that around the time the former president's campaign rally was beginning, coincidentally, the so-called security sweep, or the thorough review of everything inside the convention perimeter, was beginning, led by the Secret Service. It was supposed to continue into the overnight hours. We'll see now if it is potentially extended a few hours or not. And we'll also see, as Major was reporting earlier, whether there's any change to events that are scheduled to begin tomorrow. I know of one, for example, convention attendees from the 50 states and the territories are invited to a large outdoor music and festival area on the shores of the lake here for a big event tomorrow night. We'll have to see if that is changed in any way, given that it is an outdoor event, like the campaign event in Pennsylvania. But otherwise, hotels here are beginning to fill up.
So we can see down here, so Butler, shooter, has been confirmed to be dead, of course, down there. So if you knew where the rally was going to be, you could have hidden a weapon there for weeks before the security and all the podiums and stuff were even set up, like in the movie Manchurian Candidate. This is a good point. That is exactly how it could have gone down. Obviously, this could have been premeditated for weeks, maybe even months. It's hard to say, but of course it's harrowing scenes in Pennsylvania, absolutely harrowing. So Butler County DA, shooter dead and rally attendee killed at Trump PA campaign event.
And other outreach.
Well, Ed, what you're saying, just to put it in context, this is already affecting the operations of a campaign 4 months out from Election Day. Right. But it is also a choice, a deliberate choice being made by the Biden campaign to say this is not the moment for politics. It was very quickly that they got the president on air. Tell me what you thought about the language chosen by the president and the thinking in the White House and trying to tamp down any kind of perhaps retaliation.
When the current president speaks about his predecessor and bitter political rival, I had never heard him before refer to him in that way as Donald. To Adriana's earlier observation, I would surmise, based on years of tracking him, that that's exactly what he was trying to do, sort of tamp down the politics of this and try to emphasize the humanity. Donald, after all, is a man, is a human being, is a father, is a grandfather, is someone who's followed and adored by millions of Americans and people around the world. So the fact that he very clearly said from the beginning, I'm trying to talk to Trump tonight myself, is notable, and we'll see whether or not that conversation happens. And the president didn't rule out speaking again tonight to try to help quell concerns across the country. That response, different to the one that Trump made in the moments after this, though perhaps understandable. And we'll just have to monitor here in the coming hours how these two leaders, and perhaps former presidents, Margaret, consider speaking out or doing something to try to quell the obvious rancor and violence that we've seen today and could potentially see over the next 3.5 months as the campaign continues.
I definitely think that it was a good choice from Biden, President Biden, to actually address it in that manner. You know, politics aside, this is a human being at the end of the day. Yes, they are bitter rivals. Yes, it is his, his adversary, his opponent, but he's still a person, was
the eliminated threat Secret Service took down.
That's new information.
And confirmation from Pat Milton as well, from 2 law enforcement sources to her. The shooter was outside of that cordoned area, as we've been discussing. It was a couple hundred yards away from former President Trump. It was on that elevated structure, shot and killed by a member of the Secret Service counter-assault team. As Margaret said, the shooter's weapon was a rifle. New information from Pat Milton.
In other words, a skilled shooter to be able to take a shot like that at a distance with a rifle.
And to Ed's point, the current president is talking about unity, trying to cut through the politics and talk about the human.
You would have thought after Kennedy they would have like bulletproofing at these things. I mean, the second that I heard about this, my mind went straight to Kennedy. Obviously, it's just the headlines are Donald Trump shot, so you instantly think that it's fatal. Fortunately, it's not, thank God, because, regardless of what you think about Donald Trump, I don't think anybody would wish him dead. Or a hunter. Catherine, that's a good point. There would be, they're worried about riots tonight. Yeah, this is it. This is the fallout. What's going to come next, I guess, is the question. What's going to come off the back of this? Because, of course, right now, the question's being asked of, was this an inside job? Was this, an idea to try and, speculative theories are getting thrown about whether it was Trump doing it on purpose or whether it was Biden doing it on purpose or whether this was just a disgruntled American citizen. But at the end of the day, who's going to risk their life in the way that this person has for something like this? And I guess what's the question is now is what comes next? What happens now? How do the public respond to this? How does the White House respond to this? How do the people respond to this? How does the world respond to this? This is very, very big.
When you are outside, there is less ability to control all the elements. Yeah. We don't know exactly what happened, but we do know that an alleged assailant has been neutralized. We believe him, if it is a man, to have been up on a roof.
CBS reporting at this point is that it is a male, and we're having communication issues ourselves on this end, and this is a breaking news environment, so stay with us in this fluidity. But I want to make sure that our control room in New York tells me that we have someone on the phone right now who was an eyewitness to events. I'd like to be able to speak to him. I'm told his name is Josh Dresling. Josh, are you there, and can you hear all of us?
Yes, I'm here, and I can hear you.
Wonderful. Josh, can you give us a little context? Why were you at the rally today?
Okay.
I was just an observer there to take some pictures and see the goings-on of, this whole movement in our country, and then chaos kind of broke out.
You're a journalist, or why? You stood in the heat in an hour, and you went through security and at this campaign. You're a pretty interested photographer. Tell me a little bit about why you were there and what you saw.
I'm an amateur journalist. I mostly cover music and that kind of stuff. So this was more of a personal personal kind of adventure today. I was there and bared through the heat and went through the security with, there was several thousands of people there, and it was very hot. And I made my way to basically the center of the crowd. I was a little bit off to the right of the podium, about 50 yards away, standing there with, shoulder to shoulder with many, many other people. And then I heard one pop, and then a second pop, 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 and then there was like four or five that followed that. And it sounded like it came off from my right, which would have been Trump's left, where the video that you were showing, there was two people that were injured. I kind of think that these two people were in the line of fire, and that was the shots ricocheting on the aluminum grandstand kind of seating there.
We heard some of our eyewitness reporters were saying that they could see blood on those metal boards in the stadium area in the infrastructure. What are we talking about there, and who is that from?
I didn't personally see blood on the...
So I saw it on Instagram. I first heard about this on TikTok. Strange how the news gets so global so fast. I mean, when something like this happens during a presidential campaign, a potential president candidate is shot at during a rally, this stuff does tend to go global pretty quick. Obviously, everyone hears about it within the first few moments. I'll be honest, I did think it was a setup until I heard a man died and a woman was shot in her arms and her hands, worrying with Trump standing up and saying fight that will cause problems in the USA tonight. This is exactly it, and this is what's, the first thing that springs to mind is everyone's idea is was this a setup? Was this sympathy garnering? But when you hear about the repercussions and the fallout, actually, you realise that this is far bigger than that. This is, clearly a disgruntled citizen of and someone who's clearly not a Trump supporter. It is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying that something like this happens. This blows my mind. Alberto and Stella, me too. It's terrifying. I've been crying. It is terrifying. It's terrifying to think that something like this can happen. You think of politicians, especially of the caliber of Trump at the moment, as untouchable. But it is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying.
Former President Trump, but those who have spoken to Donald Trump Jr. and other family members say former President Trump is reiterating to his closest advisors and family members that he is fine. But so many people on both sides of the aisle shook by this outbreak of violence in Pennsylvania. We are still trying to learn more about what exactly happened on stage. We have seen the images, we have seen the video, but what exactly happened in terms of the trajectory of the firearm discharge, if they were bullets, if there was some other type of event that happened in the vicinity of the stage. We heard from David McCormick, the Senate candidate, an eyewitness and sitting in the first row, watching the former president. The former president, though physically, personally defiant, we're told tonight by those closest to him, doing fine. Everyone in his circle shook. And you saw President Biden tonight weighing in, not just a statement on paper, but taking time in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, a place he rarely makes comments, to make a statement about how he believes this is a sick moment in American political history.
I don't think that Biden could have stayed quiet on this. I don't. I think, he had an obligation to comment on the situation, to kind of, show face, because it instantly quashes speculation. And that's exactly what's important here. And, I think to show support to a fellow human is also what's important. American and not a Trump supporter, but this is big. This liberal media needs to get this right and come across compassionate, or they will hand the election to him. This is it. And, regardless of what side or where you are in the world, I'm obviously from the UK, and I can understand the gravity of how huge and fundamental this is in history, in American political history. you know, this goes down probably alongside the JFK assassination, and in that kind of caliber, when you think of US presidents and history, it is that big. This is that big. How long has it been? How long had he been talking before he was shot? I don't actually know, because I wasn't tuned into it. I don't believe it was that long. No, if he'd stayed quiet, it would have been a bad thing for him. Yeah, I completely agree. I think Biden had no choice but to speak out.
Security moment. Many people already in this country very angry at the other side, not just on a partisan red versus blue level, but we cover it all the time here at CBS News. There's a visceral nature to the emotions that pour out on the campaign trail.
And to that point, Bob Costa, I was just texting with Robert O'Brien, the former national security advisor to Donald Trump, who sent out a statement saying we've got to take the political temperature down. He and Mike Lee, the senator, issued this jointly. We've got to take the political temperature down, as evidenced by what happened in Pennsylvania today. So 2 key Republican Trump supporters calling for the rhetoric, the political violence, the threats of it to be lowered. That is in stark contrast to the head of the Trump campaign, one of the top Trump campaign officials you were reading statements from earlier. We are also looking at social media posts from other Republicans who are quite angry. Everyone should be angry that this security failure happened, but in a way that will raise further concern of someone misinterpreting things and perhaps carrying out further political violence. Law enforcement will want to lower this temperature. And words matter right now.
The division and hate is going to be even stronger now. I completely agree. I think this has just driven a further wedge and divide between these 2 candidates, and well, the division across the country. You know, this is a very powerful statement that someone has chosen to make to try and take the life of a presidential candidate. That can't be understated. It cannot be understated. This is very, very big.
It was very confusing because the shots did not sound like they were gunshots. It sounded like they were fireworks. And we were sitting about 50 feet from this giant green tractor, which is a combine, and I look over and I saw plumes of dust, but I thought, that's not what a gunshot sounds like. And then the chaos ensued and we all got down.
So we can see here, shooter was outside the security perimeter on an elevated platform and they used a rifle. So that will explain how they were not, there were no weapons inside the grounds. They were outside of the perimeter, the security perimeter, and they took a shot from a further distance back, which, well, if, you know, it's been speculated that there were more than just one shooter, but right now all that we know is that there was one shooter and they have since been taken down. This wasn't security, it was outside the perimeter. That's how it happened. I do think perimeters need to be more secure. I completely agree.
We heard the gunshots coming from. Now, it's interesting to note that the gunshots obviously hit a large piece of equipment that was holding a giant speaker, and that cable snapped. And when that cable snapped, some kind of fluid came out of that machine. So there was fluid spraying, and there was a loud noise and equipment falling as well. So it was very chaotic.
I'm sure it is. I'm looking here at our producers logging the video playback that we've been watching here. That's on your screen right now. And it looks like there was about a 30-second or so difference of time between when they heard shots and when the Secret Service said shooters down.
Yes.
That was a very quick reaction, it sounds like, including neutralizing the shooter.
Absolutely. We did not hear any shots that would have neutralized the shooter. I actually posted the video of the gentleman getting carried out of the stands that was hurt. And I also had a still shot of further back, them doing some kind of triage on someone. I had thought it was the shooter, but now as I'm watching the news, it looks like the shooter is on top of a building. I don't know if that is true or not.
I can't believe this. This is so. This doesn't feel like real life right now. This feels like some kind of fever dream. Do you know what I mean? Where like it's just. It just doesn't feel like this kind of thing happens, but of course it does, and it's just terrifying to think that, you know, Trump's gone to a rally. I was literally lay in bed. I get sent a message from my partner, and she goes, "Trump's been shot," and I've been like, "Oh no," thinking it's, you know, fatal. Thank God it's not, but you know, but this, I think it's more powerful that he's still alive. You know. Like that photo there of him with his fist up in the air and like blood dripping down his ear, that is now going down in history. You know, that is probably, like I said before, going down in history alongside the, like, in American history and, well, global history as well, alongside the JFK assassinations, probably even, like, you know, 9/11. That photo right there, it's it doesn't seem real. This is exactly it.
And yes, I do have a good working knowledge of firearms, and I did not hear any shots after that of this shooter being taken out either. So I don't know if there were silencers involved or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your eyewitness account there. So very familiar with what guns sound like. Very interesting detail to know there from Melissa. I understand, Bob Costa, you are seeing Donald Trump himself make a statement now.
Yes, former President Donald Trump communicates on a social media platform, Truth Social. This is a verbatim of what he posted moments ago.
Oh, okay, here we go.
I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all law enforcement for the rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. This is all verbatim from Trump's Truth Social. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. CBS News has confirmed that. More verbatim. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper right part of my ear. He says on his Truth Social he believes he was shot, quote, with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America, end quote. This is a statement moments ago from former President Trump on his Truth Social media account. He said nothing is known at this time about the shooter who is now dead. He believes he was shot, he says on his Truth Social, with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear, as he put it. And he said he heard a whizzing sound, shots, and felt what he calls a bullet ripping through the skin. CBS News is still reporting out the exact details of what unfolded on stage in terms of the firearm, what happened on top of that building, hundreds.
Is he all right, Amalia? Sorry. Yeah, it's believed that he's, you know, he said that he's absolutely fine. Of course, you know, it wasn't fatal for him. Unfortunately, it was for someone in the crowd, just behind him, who was hit by a stray bullet, and that is the body of the shooter. And yeah, he's said that it pierced his upper right ear, and an official statement right there, like we just heard.
Much bleeding took place. Whizzing sounds, shots. He felt something ripping through his skin.
Well, he is always colorful and graphic in describing things, and for him to say it was a bullet that pierced the upper part of his ear then would seem to contradict some of the initial reporting that it was perhaps shrapnel or glass that ricocheted and caused that trickle of blood.
This is his statement. This is his statement. We are still reporting out this story, and part of that report is detailing what the person who was involved in this incident, former President Donald Trump, has to say. His Truth Social statement is like us talking to an eyewitness or talking to someone at the phone who was there, but he was directly involved. It is clear former President Trump was injured in part with a firearm that was discharged from a building hundreds of yards away. He was visibly bleeding from the ear on his face as he left the stage, raised his arm in defiance as he left Secret Service on top of him. You can see the blood there on the upper part of his ear, a drop of the blood dripping along his cheek. So clearly something struck him in that area. He says on Truth Social tonight, he believes it was a bullet. We are still reporting out this story at CBS News.
This is unbelievable.
Part of it is his account as he sees it.
It's just, I you know, listening to it, it doesn't feel real. This doesn't feel like it's happened. I mean, the evidence is right in front of me. I'm watching it right now. Him holding his ear, going down, the blood pouring. You know, people in the crowd who have, like, sadly lost their life. And it's just horrifying.
A short time before it started, and he actually tells me that he saw the shooter on the building, and his name is Benjamin Macer. Thank you so much for staying around. Just take me back. What were you doing before the shooting happened, and then what did you see and hear?
I was just standing there like everybody else, waiting for Trump. And as Trump started, I noticed 2 officers that were looking for something or somebody. I was looking around myself and seeing a guy on top of one of the buildings go in between one building to the next, and went and told the officer that he was up there. And when I went back to my spot, I heard that people could still see the person from where they were standing. So I checked that out, and I went back to tell the officer that if he came over there, he could see them. And when I turned my back is when the shots started, and then it took me a second or two to figure out exactly what it was. And then it was just getting out of there and helping some other person out with her child, and we got out, and that was the end of that. And I went and left, and that was all.
So the viewers have some perspective. Behind us, okay, is the American Glass Research Company, okay? Can you kind of describe the building behind us, the tan building right there? Can you take a look at it? And then where was the shooter exactly?
There's more buildings behind the tan building that we can see, and we were back there, and there's 2 or 3 buildings behind that, and he was on both of them. I assume both of them when he went on that small section from one to the other.
This is unbelievable.
That was where I last saw him, was the end of his day.
So this man was able to basically climb to the next building, and you told law enforcement, hey, there's a guy over there.
Correct. I don't know how he got up there. I don't know.
Unbelievable.
But I definitely saw him up there, and that was all I know.
Did you get a good look at the shooter?
No, I don't know. I don't know anything about him other than I believe he had a gray shirt on, but that's about as much as I know.
Unbelievable.
And then what happened after the shots were fired? Can you describe just the panic and just the fear I'm sure you felt?
There was definitely panic. We started out of there, and I went away a little bit and noticed there was a lady trying to get out of there with her 2 chairs and her little child, and I helped her. I carried the child out and her chairs for her, and we got her out, and she said that her dad was still up there, and told me what he was wearing. So I went back up and found her dad.
Wow.
And told him where he could find his daughter, and then that was it. I left and got myself out of there.
So the building where the shooter was...
Wow, our Secret Service are amazing. So grateful for them. Watching them surround him and shelter him gave me chills. I have to admit, they did act incredibly quick. The second that those shots were fired and he held his ear, they were on him. Of course, that is their jobs, but I mean, to react so quickly, you know, you've got to register what's just gone on, but they were on it. I bet this would be just like the JFK, the lone shooter that was just crazy. Not that someone had something to do with it. Yeah, I'm starting to think that myself. I think that, you know, listening to the eyewitness accounts, listening to Biden talk, listening to Trump obviously in his social post, I think it's... I don't think that this was, you know, a setup in any way.
Turned around is when the shots were, so I don't know what happened with that. And then obviously my attention was directed somewhere else.
Anything, you said you're a local here. What do you know about this company here?
I don't know anything about American Glass Research. I assume they do glass research, but that's all I know.
And then another witness I interviewed, he just is baffled, just confused how, with all of the police here, the Secret Service, how this could have happened. Just what are you wondering right now?
I don't have much wonder. The shooter was outside of the secured fence. He never would have went through security. He was just far enough away, and it's an unfortunate thing that happened, and
incredibly,
that's all.
Did you see him get shot?
No, like I said, my back was turned at that point, so I didn't see any of it.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. So there you have it. So the witness here just basically saying that he flagged law enforcement, saying that he saw this guy and that it appeared that they were looking for someone, and he then saw the guy on the roof. And just many people that I'm talking to just wondering how this could have happened.
Many people wondering exactly that very question right now. And no doubt, since this is a Secret Service investigation, we will be hearing more from them on those details as they get them. We do have a statement from the Secret Service at this time,
and
I want to share it with everyone who's tuning in at this hour. The Secret Service is saying today in Butler, Pennsylvania, at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots, no specific number listed here, toward the stage from an elevated position, as our eyewitnesses have been sharing with our audience, outside of the rally venue. The Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who's now deceased. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed, as we've been reporting, and 2 spectators were critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation, and the Secret Service has notified the FBI. So the Secret Service confirming from the federal level what our eyewitnesses have been saying in terms of the...
It's absolutely heartbreaking that someone, multiple people, of course, have gone out to support Trump, to go to his rally, to, watch history unfold as their new presidential election gets underway. They never would have thought that it would end like this. Nobody in the world would have thought that this was capable, possible even. People went in there, and sadly, people won't be going home. It's really, really sad. It's heartbreaking, in fact.
There is now planning currently underway to expand the perimeter at the Republican National Convention to create a buffer zone around the event. And at 8:42 p.m. Eastern tonight, former President Trump issued a statement on Truth Social. He said, quote, "I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed." And also, and he said that he recounted, in his view, whizzing sounds, quote, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, he says, end quote, on his Truth Social account.
And Bob, you're talking about those changing security.
You've got to think how terrifying that is. That was inches from, inches further to the right is right here, so inches further to the right on our side and like our POV, that could have been a fatal shot. He was very lucky that it just hit his ear. I don't know whether that was a miss, whether it was just him moving at the last second. Whatever it was, horrific. And to think that, this could have ended very, very differently is horrifying.
Built around that convention site, multiple blocks in every direction. As I reported earlier on our special coverage, Reince Priebus, the chairman of this Republican National Convention, was not, when he spoke to me about an hour ago, aware of any changes yet in the security protocols here in Milwaukee.
There will be changes.
He would not be surprised if, in fact, the existing, very extensive security protocols and perimeters would either be hardened or extended, but nothing had been relayed to him yet. I just want to tell you what's gone on in the last half hour here. We're, like I said, about 2 blocks from the convention arena. I've seen far more police cars circling this area in the last half hour than I did in the first half hour that I arrived here, coming straight from the airport. We've also seen 2 helicopters circling this part of downtown Milwaukee. I wouldn't say that is dramatically out of the ordinary for preparations for an event of this size and security, but we can't pretend that it's not happening and not noticeable. It is noticeable and meant to be noticed. That's what's happening right here in Milwaukee. A couple of other things I can tell you, Margaret. Talking to those in the Trump inner circle about the events that will begin here tomorrow. I've talked to 2 sources within the Trump campaign who tell me that already the speeches that were prepared are being rewritten, and the rhetoric will reflect this event. And many Republicans who take the stage, not just tomorrow night, but every night and the 4 nights of this event, will talk about, from their vantage point, Democrats, the left, liberals, using very harsh language about the former president, language they will assert cannot be separated from this event in Butler, Pennsylvania. That is probably something most people would assume, but I have confirmation that those speeches are being redrafted with this event in mind. And already I've been told that the former president had soft intentions before this event in Butler, Pennsylvania, to be at this convention each and every night in some capacity or another. I've been told to expect him to be visible tomorrow night here.
Wow, so he's clearly, you know, wanting to prove a point that, you know, this shooter hasn't won, this person isn't going to win, and, you know, he's going to stand in front of those people. And I think that's quite a powerful sentiment, you know, that he's going to remain visible and in the public eye throughout this campaign, because I think it'd be very easy for him to kind of disappear, you know, to recover. That's what you would expect from someone, but I think it's very powerful that he's going to be in the public eye. He's going to remain in the eyesight of everyone, and, you know, maintain that presence. I think that's quite telling.
And the presumptive Republican nominee for president has been injured, but Secret Service tonight says he is safe. He himself has issued statements to that effect, talking about what he has described as minor injuries to his ear. CBS has learned from law enforcement sources that the shooter was killed by a Secret Service counter-assault team.
Wow.
Sources say the shooter, who used a rifle, was acting from outside the security perimeter, something that Secret Service themselves confirmed. Secret Service also said the shooter was standing on an elevated platform. We know from some reporting that that was a shed. A rally attendee who was there to support Donald Trump was also killed. The former president posted about his own injuries on social media. He said he wanted to extend his condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. We actually heard from Secret Service that it was 2 people, or more than 1 person, who have been critically injured. And we will try to track their recovery as we report out this story. It is still in the early moments, and I want to get to Scott McFarlane, our CBS reporter who was on the ground covering the rally for CBS News. Scott, when
I've seen here, ex-President Reagan was also shot, not just JFK. Think he's lucky it was a graze and not worse. I completely agree. I mean, like, you know, like I say, only a couple of inches to the left or the right, and this could have ended a lot differently for Donald Trump. And, you know, we'd be sat here with a very different outlook on this whole situation. I mean, the situation in its entirety is horrific. The fact that a man, you know, regardless of your political views, regardless of however you view him, he's still a man, you know, with kids, grandkids and a family, has been shot. And I think it's absolutely horrific, and it's terrifying. It is terrifying. You think of these people as untouchable. You don't think of them as people that this kind of thing can happen to. But
don't, at least not these. We all conflated them initially for firecrackers. Some of us are kicking ourselves for taking so long to duck for cover, and you get a sense now from all of the shootings across America, all the tragedies, why there is a fog of war during them. It's so disorienting. It's so disabling. You lose your senses. I can't tell you how many there were. I lost count because there was a fog of war going on. A lot of us jumped beneath the nearest thing we could find, chairs. We were beneath the press rafters. Things were hitting us in the head. People were running into each other. There was this collision of humanity. But I also can tell you that among those in the crowd who were last to leave, they were in a holding pattern here for hours. They just now have been freed to go. Overhead, there are still helicopters circling. I saw ambulances arrive minutes after the former president was taken away, which gave us an indication there were more medical needs on site. We also saw a different helicopter, potentially a medevac, land twice within minutes of the former president leaving. This is an absolute horror and trauma for those who lived through it, the thousands of supporters of the former president. And I'll tell you something else. Some in the crowd turned on us, heckled us, made gestures at us, approached the police line or the barricade they had near the media rafters. There were some, though, also, Margaret, who were heckling us earlier in the day, as often happens at these events. A couple of them came up to exchange good words when this was all over, to check on how we were doing. This is a mutual trauma for everybody involved.
No doubt, Scott, and I know you're still digesting and processing what you just lived through, and we are very glad that you are safe, along with our two other reporters, Jake Rosen and Olivia Rinaldi. And
this is exactly it. And, you know, of course, Trump was the one that was targeted, but it wasn't him that died. It was attendees that died, and it was attendees that were critically injured. Trump was very fortunate to walk away with minor injuries, like we've said, but also the entire crowd experienced and lived that. You know, I can't imagine how horrifying it is, because I've never been in an experience where I've been in a condensed area, you know, where you are penned in with bodies around you. You can't go anywhere. You can't run. You can't divert. You can't flee. And there's shots being opened up on anywhere. You don't know where the shots are coming from. You don't know where they're being aimed at. Obviously, you can presume the target would be someone like Donald Trump, but you can't assume when it comes to this kind of statement and this kind of level of statement. You know, who knows what's going through someone's mind to even do something or want to do something like this, you know? So it is terrifying. What Trump chooses to do next is so important. Everyone else on both sides is calling for peace, and he has yet to. If he fuels any fires, even indirectly, it's going to get scary, just like it did in January. Yeah, this is, yeah, I agree. And how he moves forward with this, obviously, is he stood up and you could hear on his lips when he was pumping his fist in the air, he was shouting fight, it is terrifying to think that this has happened to him. But of course, you know, what comes next will be very critical, because this could incite riots, this could incite issues, this could incite all sorts. You know, obviously President Biden's come forward and spoken about it, and he's basically said, you know, put politics aside, let's dull that down for a moment. This is a human being that's been in the firing line of shots. I think that's quite a noble thing to say. I think it's a fair thing to say, and I think Donald Trump needs to almost replicate that to, you know, like settle the crowd, because he's got a lot of influence and he's got a lot of power. We've seen it in the past, you know, with other incidents where, you know, things have been incited, maybe not directly, but whatever. I think how he chooses to word what comes next is very, very critical. There's going to be some major trauma bonding tonight for sure. All of these people are going to be living through something right now, and this is, you know, it's crazy. So sorry for everyone, just awful for the people who have been killed, their loved ones, dreadful. I completely agree. My thoughts and my prayers go out to those people tonight, because it's horrifying. It's going to get out of hand so quickly. Yeah, if it doesn't get handled properly, Trump's got a lot of responsibility on his shoulders right now. Oh.
By all the agencies in the federal government as to the situation, based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And so And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that the people who, and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to give, if it's not convenient for you all.
That was a statement, as you see there, from President Biden calling for calm, saying he reached out to Donald Trump himself, hopes to reach him sometime this evening to check on his competitors' well-being. We want to bring in CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who follows the Biden campaign very closely, but is also on the political trail right now. He's out in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Ed, what do you know at this hour?
The president remains at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, Margaret, but the protective press pool that tracks his movements and travels with him for incidents just like what unfolded today, or the possibility of them, has not yet been cleared for the night, which means we could hear again from the president. There could be a decision made to move him back to Washington tonight. We await word on that from those traveling with him in Delaware. But in that statement, condemning the violence, calling it sick, saying it's one of the reasons we have to unite, and the fact that he said from the beginning of that statement that he's trying to speak with Trump tonight was a signal not only to Americans, but to the world, that at least American political leaders are trying to get in touch and unite tonight in the aftermath of this violence. A few other things to convey here to remind people. We are in Milwaukee ahead of the Republican convention. It is set to begin on Monday with the formal nomination of Trump and his running mate, who we still don't know who that person is. It's supposed to happen Monday afternoon. There are events beginning tomorrow. This is classified already, has been for years, as a top national security event.
C3P what a great name, by the way, great username. I don't want anyone hurt, no one deserves this. Completely agree, couldn't agree more with you. This is absolutely not the way to handle things if you do not like someone or disagree with their political motives. Typically, what normal people do is they just don't vote for them on voting day. Yeah, that's how the world should be. Unfortunately, people think that they can take these things into their own hands, and it's sick. It is sick. People don't deserve to be treated like this. This is a human being at the end of the day, regardless of political views and opinions. My battery is telling me that I am going to die soon, so I'm going to have to dip in a moment. But, you know, I stand by what I've said here.
Saw them riding around on bicycles earlier today, getting the lay of the land, trying to sort out their bearings. And, of course, all of them under the leadership of the U.S. Secret Service, which is responsible for these kinds of events. So we await word tonight, Margaret, on whether or not we'll hear again from the president and in what form. And we should also add, in a sign of one attempt at least to address the heated rhetoric of the moment, the Biden campaign has decided to immediately begin postponing television and digital communication across the country on television, in your social media stream. It may take a few hours or days for it to all filter out. But as of now, the Biden campaign isn't spending any money reaching voters on the air, online, through text messaging. Officials here at CBS confirmed that they've received the messages, as would be standard, telling them to please cease that advertising. And so that is what will happen, unclear for how long, but a sign of at least the Biden campaign's effort to address this and take down the temperature.
Okay. You can hear Ed O'Keefe there on the street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, ahead of the RNC getting underway. The Defense Secretary of the United States of America, Lloyd Austin, has also issued a statement condemning the violence, which has absolutely no place in our democracy. This is not the way we resolve our differences in America, and it must never be. He says he's relieved that reports indicate former President Trump is safe and he is in his prayers. I want to go to Samantha Vinograd, who is here on...
Right, I think that is a good point for me to clock off, because for me right now it is 2:15 in the morning. I was in bed when this news broke, but I wanted to jump on a live stream to kind of get up to speed with what's going on, catch you guys up and kind of chat with you guys about what the feeling is over in the States. And I think I've got pretty good understanding of that now, because it is obviously, you know, it's just I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. It does feel like some kind of crazy fever dream in which something like this just can't happen, but it is, and it has, and it's terrifying. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on the stream this evening, if you have, and thank you for watching if you are watching it on the catch-up. I hope that you guys, well, have a lovely evening / day. I hope that this doesn't cause too much chaos over in the United States for my friends over there. And yeah, thanks guys for watching. I'll catch you in a bit. Peace.